all of the material that we're going to be covering in today's class session. So in Google Classroom, I posed the question, what challenges do you foresee with the use of VR and AR tours with students with attention difficulties, vision difficulties, and auditory difficulties? And I hope to provide some potential solutions. Now, these solutions might work for some students, but it might not work as well for others. So, certainly they're meant as suggestions as opposed to, actual, hard advice as to you should do this with this student and you should do that with that student. So, one of the issues that arises with students, particularly with attention difficulties, is like Jennifer had mentioned in our Google Classroom discussion, that they can stray off course. So in other words, kids can just simply, look around at different features as opposed to what feature the teacher is trying to direct them to. Some other difficulties that might occur is, as far as visual difficulties, not being able to see clearly or experiencing some simulator sickness, or, auditory difficulties, not being able to hear some of the ambient audio, or, or just in general having difficulty with hearing the content that's within the tour. So right now I'm just going to show an example of a VR video that's been put onto YouTube. So basically last week I showed you the Coliseum VR. So I'm just going to quickly go over to that just so I can give you a frame of reference. Okay, so anyway, let's see, so it's just taking a moment. Okay, so we've essentially got the Coliseum exterior, Coliseum interior. We've got the Arch of Constantine as a point of interest. We've got the scaffolding as a point of interest. So one of the things that I did was I took my iPhone and I actually recorded a screen video of the Coliseum tour and put it onto YouTube. So I'm just going to show you that really quickly.
Outside the Coliseum, here spectators would watch gladiators. Outside the Coliseum, here spectators would watch gladiators fight. Arch of Constantine. The Arch of Constantine was built to celebrate Emperor Constantine I's victory at the Battle of Milvian Bridge.
All right, so I'm just going to pause it right there. So basically, it's the same tour that you would be able to get on Google Poly or Google Expeditions, except it's been screen recorded. So the benefit of that is that it actually directs the students to the particular landmark that they are supposed to be learning about, as opposed to having them wander off. Another benefit is that you can pull up the closed captioning in YouTube, and that will bring up larger captions for any students who might have visual or auditory needs. So anyway, what I recommend is that when you are having students utilize this form of the tour, I would give them the option. I would say to students that they can either do a tour where they get to control where they go, but if they feel as though they might get distracted, put that on the student and say, if you think that you're going to be distracted and not be able to follow along, here's another option that you can use. What I do recommend is if you do have students use something like this screen recording on YouTube, I recommend having students use the Merge 360 goggles as opposed to the cardboard, because the focus might be a little bit off with the cardboard. I'll just show you what I mean in just a moment. So I'm just going to go ahead and switch over to webcam. All right, here I am, and it's a little bit dark, so hold on. I'm just going to try and angle this, maybe turn the lights on, because I didn't realize that it got that much darker in here since I first set up the webcam. Okay, so that's a little bit better. Anyway, so the Merge 360 goggles are going to be better for that situation where you have students viewing something on YouTube as opposed to through the Google Expeditions app, because you have these focus buttons here and then also on the bottom here. And what that does is it changes the distance between each lens, and it also changes the distance between the phone and the actual lenses themselves. So you're gonna have more luck with a device like this. This costs $30 on Amazon, whereas of course this is the $15 option, the Google Cardboard, but it doesn't give you any options as far as how far the phone appears away from your eyes or how close or far away the lenses are from one another. So if you are going to do that kind of option, I recommend that you invest in this similar set of goggles. All right. The other option that we have, I'm just going to go back over to screen share in just a moment. Okay. Here we are. Okay. Another option that we have available is screen recording a full screen video. So here's the same example, except in full screen.
Dear spectators who watch gladiators fight. Arch of Constantine. The Arch of Constantine was built to celebrate Emperor Constantine I's victory at the Battle of Milvian Bridge in 12. Modern.
All right, so of course the disadvantage to that method is, of course, it's not going to be in VR mode. But this is an option again for students who might wander off, and it's also an option for students who might experience simulator sickness. Students would still be able to view this through the goggles, but it wouldn't be quite as immersive. It would almost be like being in a movie theater. And I'm just going to demonstrate why that is. So it's just going to take me a moment to pull that up on my phone. So just give me a moment, and then I'll also go back to webcam. So let's see, week 3. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to head back over to webcam right now. Okay, here I am again. Sort of got a little bit darker. Maybe if I adjust, there we go. Okay. So anyway, that being said, just going to go ahead and open up. Please reopen. Okay, so now I'm having some technical difficulties, of course. It's giving me an oops. So I apologize for the fact that it's giving me an oops. I'm just trying to open up my document that has all of my links to today's resources. Okay, I think we're better now. Okay, so anyway, here's the full screen example. You do have the ability to tap on the 3 dots, and then from here, you tap view in VR or watch in VR. And what that does is it kind of looks almost similar to a movie theater. I'm just going to pause it right now.
The modern scaffolding that exists here allows restoration workers to carefully reconstruct parts of the Colosseum.
So as students are viewing it, this is what it will appear like. It'll just be kind of like a black background, and then you'll see the video. So this is really good for students who might experience simulator sickness. So they can still view it in VR to a certain extent. It's going to be slightly more two-dimensional, but still immersive in that they're not surrounded by whatever they would be surrounded by in their classroom. All right, so those are a couple of different options for making your tours accessible. Now, as far as how you would be able to get them from your phone or from your device, you've got a couple of different options. So one option is if you were recording full screen from your either desktop or laptop device, a free screencasting tool is called Screencastify. I'm just going to go ahead back to screen share right now. That way I can show my screen. So just to demonstrate. So Screencastify is a free screen recorder that you can use in Google Chrome. I'm just going to quickly open it up. It's very easy to use, but of course, if you have a Mac, you could use QuickTime, or you could use, any number of screencasting tools, but I just figured I would show you this one because it's free. And you get to record up to 50 videos a month for free, and it will transfer automatically to your Google Drive account. So it's pretty self-explanatory. You'd hit record and you use your settings. The other option that you have is screen recording from your phone. So I'm just going to show this video right here really quickly as far as how to screen record your expedition tour and upload it to YouTube. I'll also share this video as well in Google Classroom.
On Control Center, customize controls, and then screen recording will appear in this list. As of right now, it's turned on, but if it were turned off, it would be at the bottom of this list, and you just want to tap it in order to turn it on. So then from that point, what you would do is you would open up the Expeditions app, and you would go to the tour that you want to screen record. So let's just say, for example, I wanted to do this one. I would tap on View in VR and then turn so that it's facing. Here, spectators would watch gladiators fight. So then in order to actually record it, what you would do is on the newer iPhones, you would swipe from the top right corner. Older iPhones, you would swipe from the bottom of your screen. So anyway, I'm just going to show you really quickly. So if I were to swipe, I have the option to record, which is right here in the bottom right corner. It's currently recording, but what you would do is you would hold your finger down on that button, and you have the option to turn your microphone on or off. So it depends on what you're doing. For the purposes of recording an expedition, you would probably want the microphone off, but you would be able to record the audio from the expedition itself. So then you would simply go into the expedition and record what you need to. And so then from that point, when you're done recording, you would simply swipe again to bring up your screen recorder, and then you would turn it off. Okay, so then what you would want to do from there is you would want to upload your screen recording to YouTube, and this will allow your users and viewers to be able to see things like closed captioning, as well as put it into VR mode. So the easiest, fastest way to do that, of course, would be to have the YouTube app on your phone. And then you have the upload button right here in the top right corner. And then from here, you just need to make sure that you allow access to upload an existing video. So we'll do that, hit OK. And then we've got our list of videos right here. So then what you would do is you would simply tap on a video and then tap next, give the video a title, and then upload. So then from that point, what would happen is once it's uploaded, your viewers would be able to actually view it in VR mode. Now I'm just kind of demonstrating with a random video, but of course you would put the actual video that you screen recorded up there. So anyway, in order to share it with your students in VR mode, what you would do is you would open up the video, and you can tap on the three dots in the top right corner, and you have the option to watch in VR. And so then from that point, that's how your students would be able to view.
Now I'm just going to pause it for a second. If it was already in VR mode, you wouldn't have them tap on the three dots to put it in VR mode. But so that could be an option if it's one of the full screen videos. But if it was like what we see right here at this stage, they wouldn't have to put it into VR mode. It's essentially already in VR mode for them. All right, so anyway, then the next thing that we're going to be talking about is just making sure that in addition to having different formats of the tour for students, so meaning that you have it in Google Poly, you have it in Google Expeditions, you have students being able to use the option of full screen versus VR mode. You have the option of having students, kind of self-guide their own tours versus viewing the YouTube video where it's essentially guided for them. In addition, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have different questions that you're going to provide students with to check their understanding. So using the Coliseum example, here is a list of questions that students would answer. These, of course, are open-ended questions that have to do with the Coliseum. On the other hand, we have this version B, hold on, Google Form quiz. This brings us to a multiple choice check for understanding, which might be more helpful for students whose IEPs, mention something about multiple choice versus open response, et cetera. Still assesses a lot of the same content, but just does it in a different format. So anyway, another option that you have, in addition to simply having students use, a Google Form quiz, is you do have the option to take your VR tours that you've put onto YouTube and incorporate them into PlayPosit. PlayPosit.com is a free software that is, basically you use it with your Google account. You can take stuff that you have on YouTube, either, your own personal YouTube videos or even just other content that's on YouTube, and you can embed questions in it. I forget who it was that had mentioned this in one of the previous sessions, but somebody had wondered about, do you have the ability to embed questions within a Google Poly Expedition tour? So the answer is no. However, if you incorporate the PlayPosit tool with the Google Poly Tour, then the answer is yes. So right now I'm just going to show an example of what we mean by putting the tour into PlayPosit. So essentially what I did was I took the VR video that I screen recorded and put on YouTube and added it to this PlayPosit tool. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like right here. It's just going to make me sign into my Google account. This is in preview mode, so it's not going to save my responses, but it's just going to show you how this works. Oh, goodness. Okay. Primary viewers, all of the above. Well, not employees, but okay. Oh, goodness. Okay. I'm just going to seriously go through this really quickly. Okay. Okay. Basic. Okay. Okay, continue. All right. No. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Hopefully the link will work now. Okay, Coliseum VR, PlayPosit version A. Okay. So again, this is just in preview mode, but this is a way that you can embed questions within a tour.
Outside the Coliseum, here spectators would watch gladiators fight. Arch of Constantine. The Arch of Constantine was built to celebrate Emperor Constantine I's victory at the Battle of Milvian Bridge in 312.
Okay, so then from that point, what happens is it actually prompts the student to go and answer a question. And of course, that's going to look a little bit odd when they have their phone in the viewer. So definitely telling students beforehand that once it comes up with that information to just take their phone out of the viewer. and then answer the question on their mobile phone. So just to show you, what you want to make sure that you do is if you do have students using the Play Pause It form where they would answer the questions within the actual tour itself, is you want to make sure that they are able to see it well. So just going to go ahead and switch back over to webcam. So here's an example of what it looks like when you're viewing it on the phone. So you'll notice that unfortunately, it doesn't allow the option of complete full screen. So that's definitely where an adjustable device or an adjustable headset rather would come in handy. Because unfortunately, if it's not adjustable, you will have difficulties with viewing. So if you did want to make this an option for your students to have the embedded questions, then you would need to make sure that you have a viewer that has the adjustable lenses. So you'll notice how it essentially comes up with the question for the students to answer. I'm just going to go ahead and just type in a random answer of IDK. Obviously, your students would not get credit for typing in IDK. But anyway, so then what they would do is they would submit their answer and continue on. Now, of course, because this is in preview mode, it's not saving student responses, but I will show you how you will be able to save student responses because again, this is all integrated very easily with Google Drive. So I will get to that point in a moment. Anyway, the other option that you have is to do a full screen Play Pause It. So I'm just going to go ahead and go back over to the screen share option. Okay. And it's just going to take a moment. I'm actually going to go ahead and sign in with my school account to Play Pause It because I feel like I'll have better functionality than if I am signed into my personal account. It's not letting me exit out of this. Hold on. No, that's not what I wanted. Okay. Go ahead. Okay, log out and I'm going to log in with my other account. Sorry about that. Okay, so log in. Google. Okay, and I'm going to use my Hanover account. This will allow me to better demonstrate how to be able to share this with students and integrate it with Google Classroom. Okay, so really quickly, I mentioned how you can have different questions for students as well as different formats of the tour. So as you can see here, I've got Coliseum version A and version B VR. Then I've got version A full screen, version B full screen. So essentially what that is the harder, or I should say the more higher order questions are in the version A, whereas the multiple choice are in version B. And then you have the option of being able to view it in VR or being able to view it in full screen. So I'm just going to go ahead and preview this for a second. So again, students would be able to view this in full screen if they are prone to simulator sickness, and you still would be able to have the audio and narration. I'm just going to fast forward a little bit to the questions. So then it comes up with multiple choice questions. So, so those are some different options that you have available. So what I'm going to do right now is I am going to show everyone how to create a Play Pause It tour. So basically I already showed how to screen record a tour in YouTube, both in VR mode and in full screen. So you would need to have your tour screen recorded in order to be able to use this Play Pause It tool. So I will show everyone right now how to create one of these Play Pause It bulbs and then how to be able to share it with students. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of start from the main playposit.com screen. That way you know sort of where your starting point is. So what you would do here is you would click on New Bulb. And don't worry about assigning a class at this point. What you would do is you would enter the video URL of the video that you want to include. So I'm just going to go ahead and just link back over to my Coliseum video. All right, so let's say I want to use this video here. I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste the URL into PlayPosit and add that as my video. So it's very user-friendly. Essentially what you would do is you would simply hit the play button to be able to view what's appearing in the video.
Here spectators would watch gladiators fight. Arch of Constantine. The Arch of Constantine was built to celebrate Emperor Constantine I's victory at the Battle of Milvian Bridge in 312.
All right, I'm just going to pause it right there because that would be a good place to add a question about the Arch of Constantine. So you simply click on the little grid at the bottom of the screen, add question, and then you've got different types of questions that you can ask. And the nice thing is with including PlayPosit, again, it's not self-guided, so that's a little bit of a disadvantage, but you do have so many other options as far as what types of questions. You can have polling surveys, you can embed other websites within the tour. So there's lots of different options. So for example, I'm just going to go ahead and do a free response just so that way I can kind of get this show on the road here. So you can say something like, what is the significance of the Arch of Constantine? Okay, and then, so then from that point, you would simply add your questions in, and then you would save it. And I'm just going to give this a different name, so that way I know which this is. So I'm just going to call this VR AR session 3. Okay, and you do have options if you want students to be able to rewind, skip questions, fast forward, retake, etc. So I'm just going to go ahead, close, okay, save and finish. All right, so now to be able to incorporate that with Classroom, because again, if you do preview mode, it doesn't save responses. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and show you how you would incorporate this into Google Classroom. So what you would do is when you're on the main PlayPosit screen, you would click on this little kind of inverted, let's see, hold on. You'd click right here, actually, sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. So you'd click on your profile, or click on your name, click on profile. And then from here, you would click on show Google Classroom data. And what this is going to do is if you're logged in with a Google account, it's going to automatically come up with all of your classes in Google Classroom. So as you can see, I have quite a few here. So I'm just going to demonstrate really quickly. So you'd simply click on sync with the class that you wanted to sync. Of course, here are my students. So we'll just go ahead and select all of them and then sync learners. So then from that point, what's going to happen is it's going to add them to your classes. So I'm just going to go ahead and exit out of here. And then if I go under classes, so you'll notice that I have a bunch, but the one that I just added is the grade 6 digital literacy class. So then from here, be able to actually assign a PlayPosit bulb to this particular class now that they exist. So you'll basically, you can click on the class. Sorry about the delay. Okay. So as you can see, it says that the folder is empty because they haven't been assigned an actual PlayPosit bulb yet. So anyway, I'm just going to go ahead into my bulbs, and then let's just take the example that I just created, which is the VR AR session 3. And then you have the assign option. And then you would simply assign it to that class. You can give it, a due date. I'm just going to go ahead and click on tomorrow, and then click on close and then save. So then what will happen? I'm just going to go ahead and log out for a quick moment. Oops, sorry. Hold on. I accidentally clicked on the notifications. So basically, let's just say, for example, this were a student going on to PlayPosit. What they would do is they would go, of course, to go.playposit.com, or I think if they just go to playposit.com, that should work as well. What students would do is they would log in with their Google account. So let's see, log in. Sorry about the delay. Okay, so log in, of course, assuming that you're a G Suite for Education School, the students would log in with their account. I'm just going to log in with my school account, and they would probably get this allow pop-up to come up on their screen as well. But then just like as the teacher sees it, they would literally go to classes, and then they would, they would click on their class and they would see that they have an assignment. And so from there, then they would be able to click on the assignment, answer the questions. And then for you as the teacher, I'm just going to go ahead into a different class because this class hasn't actually been assigned this particular bulb yet. So I'm just going to go into my grade 5 really quickly just to demonstrate. So when you go into the unit that you've assigned to your students, I'm just going to go ahead and click on, let's see. All right, so whoops, I clicked on the wrong thing. All right, preview, broadcast assignment. Okay, so monitor, what that'll do. So basically once students have had something assigned to them, you would go into that class, you would see the assignment, and then click on the 3 dots, monitor, and then from there you get the ability to score your students' work. So obviously I don't have an actual student right now, but it would show their responses in real time. And if you click on the particular question, it'll show what they answered. Obviously right here is just kind of blank, but you would see what the student actually answered by clicking on their name and then clicking on the question, and then it'll show their response. I just kind of happen to do like a totally random response just to demonstrate. So anyway, that is an option for you to be able to provide different ways to view a tour, different ways to question and check for student understanding within a tour. So I'm just going to go ahead and see what else I have to cover. All right, so then the other thing that I wanted to cover here is what we call a virtual nose. So this is an option that students can use if they have difficulties either visually or I would say more specifically for kind of simulator sickness, which is, similar to motion sickness. If a student is, prone to, let's say, car sickness, I know I'm kind of prone to motion sickness a little bit myself. This is a really good option if students still want to view the tour in VR. If they find that the full screen tour just isn't the same, it's just not as immersive, they enjoy the VR. This is an option that is really low cost. This right here is what we call a virtual nose. It's literally a sticky note. And it's just essentially, it's the corner of of 2 sticky notes cut in half, identical, pointing to the same spot on a Google Expeditions tour. And when students are viewing this way, what it'll do is it'll sort of give them a vantage point. Since they can't actually see their own face as they're in a tour. Because if you think, for example, if you're staring out, you can kind of see the, the tip of your nose a little bit. At least I can. I've got a big Italian nose, but what it does is it helps provide some stability. So, by having what essentially is like a little virtual nose, it kind of provides students with some semblance of where they are in relation to the things around them. And because it kind of grounds them, because of that, it helps them to not experience a lot of the effects of simulator sickness. Another thing that I just want to point out is another advantage of including your tour on YouTube. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull up, let's see, this is one of my tours here. So you have a couple of different options as far as when you upload to YouTube, you automatically get closed captioning. This is helpful, especially because the text within the Google Expedition tour is somewhat small. So I'm just going to demonstrate really quickly. I'm just going to mute it, that way I can talk over it. But you'll notice that the text is a lot larger. Of course, the issue is if you do have students that need the larger text, they're not going to be able to view in this type of video where it's already in VR for them. But what they would be able to do is they would be able to view the full screen option. And then that will pull up the larger captions. So again, here's the example. Of course, I have it muted, but that way it brings up much larger captions, for students who might need to be able to see the larger captions. If you have a student that has both auditory and visual difficulties, this could help them. Of course, to get the fully immersive experience so that kids aren't just simply limited to this sort of, full screen idea where they're still surrounded by their classroom, still surrounded by their classmates, what they can do. I'm just going to go ahead and switch back over to, here we go. So the other option again is that students can view that particular quote full screen tour like this. Again, it's sort of like a movie theater almost when you're viewing it through your viewer. And so then from there, you have the option to pull up the captions. So I'm just going to take a moment right now to pull up the captions. Just going to go ahead and rewind it a bit. So hold on. All right. Okay. Let's see, captions. Okay. All right. So now you'll notice this is a way right now for the students to be able to sort of be somewhat immersed. It's not going to be quite the same 3D immersion, but students will be able to be, immersed to the point where they're not going to have the outside distractions. And you'll notice that it still comes up with just trying to hit play at the same time. So it comes up with the captions, pretty, a lot larger than it would ordinarily. I know it looks small on here right now, but if you compare it to what's shown right here where I'm pointing, which is that little bottom left corner, that's very tiny. This is much larger. And what that'll do is when students are actually viewing it through the device, they'll be able to see those captions a lot more clearly than they would that tiny little box right there. So anyway, since we haven't had anybody join us, I think we've pretty much covered all of the material that we wanted to cover for today. Of course, if there are any other ways that you have that you think would be beneficial for students to be able to access tours, You know, for any students who might have either difficulties with attention or auditory or visual or executive function needs, you know, I'm definitely open to suggestions. I think, oh, the one other thing that I just wanted to mention too is that a lot of the time when you are viewing a tour, let's say like right here, this is an example of a full screen tour. You can actually zoom in and out a bit. It's kind of being a little wonky on me, but let me just pause it for a second. There we go. But you will be able to zoom in and out. Again, being a little wonky. If you were to have students actually view it in Expeditions, I'm just going to pull it up in Expeditions as opposed to YouTube. So let's just see for a quick moment. Just going to pull up a tour. Okay. All right. Notice you get a lot better flexibility, you know, within the full screen on the actual Expeditions app. So it'll let students really get a good idea, zoom in and out. I think personally, if you're viewing it this way, it's best on a tablet as opposed to a phone, just because you'll be able to see the landmark clearly, as well as still have room to be able to display the content. Notice how on the mobile device, it sort of covers up the landmark. And so it's a little tricky, but I found that with a tablet or even a desktop device that this is better. And again, it gives the option for being able to view things in more close detail. All right, so then that's pretty much it for today. So what you want to do for your final project is you're going to screen record a tour in both VR mode and in full screen mode, and then add it to Play Pause It, so that way you can do both versions of questions along with both versions of the tour, both full screen and also VR. And I also want everybody to recognize too that just because you're creating these tools doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be something that all of your students are going to use, but rather you have this option for students that, you know, that might be able to benefit from this type of presentation of the tour as opposed to just the straight Google Expedition tour along with the Google form questions. Anyway, I hope that this was helpful for all of you. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Google Classroom. Thanks and have a great week.